Good evening. Welcome back on this Sunday afternoon slash evening. Back to playing Everquest. Took a few days off because I didn't want to get burned out. So I'm going to show you on my Shadowknight how to swarm the Call of the Forsaken Dead Hills Heroic Adventures from Gribble using pretty much just the Shadowknight to do the majority of the killing. The only time I bring the rest of my tunes to do any actual killing is on named, just because my Shadow Knight isn't raid geared, so he isn't strong enough to kill the 10 or 15 regular mobs plus the named. It's just my Shadow Knight can't do that, so I take it a little bit more slow and do the regular swarming when I can, and then just use my group to kill any name that happened to spawn. So real fast, I want to go over my setup. I use a one-hand slash and shield to do the pull. That is so I can use a Shield Flash AA for Shadow Knights, which is a 6-second deflection. That gives me time to get my Epic 2.0, my Horse, and Visage of Death clicked. And my gear is, I have a quick conflagrant earring with 226 AC. That's including the AUG, which is a 44 AC and 8 heroic stamina. And then I have a conflagrant necklace of security, which is 277 AC. With the AUG is a 40 AC, 8 heroic dexterity. And you'll notice in a lot of these gears I don't have type 5 AUGs yet. Just haven't had the chance to go and do those. My helm is a Dread Suzerain's Conflagrant Helmet, which is a trade skill created item. So you don't have to farm anything except for the components. You don't have to go out and kill names. You don't have to be in a raid. You can simply either buy this or have a guildie or yourself make it. You just need to have fairly close to maxed out trade skills. For the helmet itself, it's 483 AC. That's including the 48 AC AUG. Then the next item I have is a Guardian's Conflagrant Mask. That's 323 AC with the AUG, which is a 45 AC and 8 heroic dexterity AUG. And most of these are spent several days farming for the AUGs themselves. Just a tank needs as much AC as they can possibly get. And then I have another quick conflagrant earring because they basically aren't lore when you first get them, so you can get multiple ones, and just the AUG themselves makes it lore. But in this case, it's a 222 AC with the 40 AC, 8 heroic dexterity AUG that's in it. Then I have a secure conflagrant ring. I have two of them. One is 256 AC, and the other one is a 278 AC with the 65 AC AUG with 14 heroic stamina and 10 heroic dexterity. Then I have two Dread Suzerain's Conflagrant Bracers. Again, these are trade skill bracers. So one is 367 AC, and the other one is 375 AC. Then I have the Dread Suzerain's Van Braces, and that one is 466 AC with their forward E8 AC and 8 heroic agility AUG. And then the last one for this particular row is a Dread Suzerain's Gauntlets, which is 439 AC with a 45 AC, 16 heroic agility, 16 heroic dexterity, and 6 heroic charisma. And then for shoulders, I have the Conflagrant Amiss of Security. It's a 292 AC AUG. 292 AC item with a 40 AC AUG. Then my breastplate is a Dread Suzerain's Conflagrant breastplate, 719 AC. That's with this type 5 AUG and a 45 AC AUG in it also, along with my type 13s where I use a pure energy and metal orb, which I'm actually going to have to get a new one of that because it's out of power. And then the next item is a Conflagrant Cloak of Security. It's 328 AC with a 67 AC AUG. Again, these particular conflagrant augs are all trade scalable also, so you can have them made. You don't have to uh, do any groups, you don't have to raid, you just have to have the items made. So if you have to farm some items to do it, then that's not too bad. Or you can just buy it if you have a lot of plat. My next item is a Vital Conflagrant Belt. It's 271 AC with a 44 AC AUG. Then the Dread Suzerain's Greaves, 552 AC with a 45 AC AUG. Then I have the Dread Suzerain's Conflagrant Boots, which is 432 AC with a 42 AC AUG. Okay, so next one I got is a Slice of Khan. This is my one-hand slash item. It is 188 AC, about 5k HP mana, and I put into it a 10 damage, 5 backstab AUG, which I am going to be planning on changing soon to a life tap AUG. I just haven't gotten to it quite yet. And then this is one of the few pieces of raid gear I have on this, just because my raiding guild, this was going to rot, and so they offered it to anyone and their alts, and so I was able to request it, and they went ahead and let me have it. So thank you to my guild, Silent Redemption, for that. This is a 471 AC, 6,000 plus HP and mana with a 40 AC AUG in it. And then I have the Dread Suzerain's Boots. It's 432 AC with a 42 AC AUG. And then a Conflagrant Longbow, which is 249 AC with a 42 AC AUG in it. So that is my equipment for when I'm doing the pulling. Once I'm actually doing the killing, I switch over to my two-hand slash because of the higher damage output, which then brings into my other raid item on this character. It's the Dreadspine, which is a raid two-hand pierce, 371 AC, 12,000 HP, 11,300 mana and endurance, with 431 damage and a 16 damage AUG in it. So I'll go ahead and show you my status for the pool. What I always have up is my regular buffs, all my clickies, because I use them as dummy buffs. You don't technically need them on. The AAs themselves give you the benefit, not the buffs. But I like using them as dummy buffs just in case any debuffs, like any dispels come from any mobs. That way they take away the dummy buffs and not my important buffs. The next one I use is I always have C for my enchanter, so the highest level of clarity I have, the highest level haste that I have. Then I have my cleric's AC and HP buff, assurance. Then my self buffs, the drape of the magma forge, which is a HP AC, and also a damage shield. That's built into the buff. Then I have Shroud of the Chronicler. That is a buff that allows me to do damage and heal myself for that damage based on melee strikes. Then I have Tylex's Horror, which I will probably be upgrading soon. I'm not sure about that one, I'll have to check. But either way, it's a buff that allows me to, once it procs, do 10 strikes with my melee weapon, and it heals me for 10% of the damage that I deal. And then my Helot skin is a damage shield buff, and causing 147 damage to anyone who hits me. Then I have Call of the Nightfall, which is basically a kind of like a lick spell, except instead of trading HP for mana, I trade it for higher attack. Only reason I'm not losing any HP at this point is because my HP regen with gear and items and everything in AA is higher than the damage caused by the spell. So I also will be casting on my Shadowknight just to be safe. The Shining Fortress spell, as well as the Melee Guard spell, Rallied Greater Ward of V. It's a group buff that does mitigate some melee damage. So now that that's cast, I'm going to go ahead and do double invis, basically cast the actual invis versus undead spell with my cleric, and then switch over to my enchanter real fast and cast the group invis AA with him, and then that way I can get the benefits of both. So that's that. One thing I'm going to do before I forget is I'm going to cast Visat Skin. That's another damage mitigator. Once it procs, it'll absorb 5,000 damage for 3 to 4 hits. So now that I have that all set up and ready, I'm going to do the first pull. I'm going to pull as many of these mobs as I can. So I'm actually going to start up here at these mobs, and then I'm going to pull these using my Refute for Power, which also gives me AC. Then I'm going to Harm Shield. It gives me about 18 seconds of invulnerability, and I'm going to pull as many mobs as I possibly can in that time. So right now I'm still pulling. I got a couple seconds left. And then when I get back to my group, I'm going to Shield Flash, hit my Epic, hit my Horsey, hit Visage, and hit my Defense. So now I can go ahead and switch to my two-hand slash. And then just make sure I'm trying to face as many of the mobs as possible. And then use my damage over times. If I have to use another defense, that's fine. Just sometimes I do like to summon, so I have to keep backing up somewhat, just to make sure that they don't get behind me. Because if they get behind me, it is not going to end well for me. So I just keep alternating mobs, and I keep moving backwards to keep them from getting too much behind me. And then if I absolutely have to, I can use my Dictomic Fang, which is a instant cast life tap. And then just keep switching these mobs. So as you can see, I had over 12 mobs. I'm now down to 6. So I'm just keeping these as much as I can in front of me. And I'm going to kill this Heroic Adventurer first right now, just because he's the only one that's at a kind of an odd angle. And now I'm going to kill these last 3. So I got my little buff on that. And now all the mobs are dead. So, and I have Mortal Coil, which is what makes this pretty doable. Without Mortal Coil, it basically lets me buff up and take heals from the damage I do to all the mobs, even based on repost. So it allows me to do a bunch of healing based off of my attacks. So now I just have to pull the rest of these mobs. And then head back to the group. I still have about a minute before they come. And with only a couple mobs, I don't really need to use a defensive ability anymore, as long as I'm able to do enough damage and kill them. So at this point, I don't really need the defensive. But I do kill quite a few mobs. I'm gonna switch to the next mob, so that way that the undead adventurer can basically kill itself on my repost and damage shield. So now that that's done, I'm going to move closer so I can damage the rest. Switch to the next mob. Cast my damage also. And if you do hear a noise in the background, it's just me using my vapor cigarette. And it's allowed me to basically quit smoking, so that's what I'm using that for. And then these are the last two mobs for this pull, and I should be able to move up with the rest of my group following me. I am going to take off the horsey though, because it's just easier to have the group keep up with me if I'm not in on the horse. So now I do the last part of this particular task. Going ahead and stop my group from auto following me at this point. Going to redo a couple of the buffs just because they wore out. Okay, so there's phase out skin. I want to go ahead and redo haste on my enchanter just to make it easy. And then I'm going to redo invis on my whole group, just that way in case something does happen to go wrong, which it can. I'm not the perfect player by any means, but this allows me to, if I happen to die, not bring my whole group with me and kill them also. So then I just go ahead and pull as many of these mobs as I can, bring them to my group. Shield flash. Use my Epic 2.0, use my horsey, and use my last defensive AA, and then switch back to my two-hand slash. So at this point I'm fighting 12 mobs. I want to keep moving a little bit closer just so I have the chance to repost off more of the mobs. And then each time I get a refresh and get a chance to cast my bond spell, I'll go ahead and cast that because it does stack for each of the mobs that it's on. So it does give me some additional healing. And then once all these mobs are done, I'll go ahead and check to see if there's any that I missed, which probably is going to be a couple. Just it's very hard to pull every single mob all at once. And then right now I just keep alternating between the mobs to try to keep it to where I don't have to keep hitting auto attack. So, and whenever I need to, I do hit my repel ability, which allows me to avoid a couple of hits. So now I'm down to 6 mobs. Okay, down to 3 now. And the last one I'm going to go ahead and dot. Okay, never mind, it died that quickly. But it's one more mob, and then I just have to go and see if any I missed at all. Doesn't appear so. And I did not get a named. So just have to pull this Death Collar Visal. I'm gonna redo my face out skin. And then I'm just gonna single pull him and bring him to the group. Just makes it easier to kill him. You know, in this case I don't really have to. I can simply kill him with the Shadowknight by itself. So actually I think that's what I'll just go ahead and have them help because the group killing it will make it faster. Since I have a Necro, Magician, Enchanter, and Cleric in my group, being able to just have them help makes it easier. And also, since I don't want them to be in this at the end, it makes it simpler for that also. Okay, so now the named is done. I just hit auto follow for all my characters again. Then I bring it back to the beginning. And then once I'm there, I'll have them all hit Lesson of the Devoted, which is this veteran AA. Allows me to get double experience for 30 minutes. So once the whole group is here and close to Gribble, I'm going to go ahead and use my IS Boxer broadcasting button to go ahead and hit Lesson of the Devoted for everyone, since I have it in the same spot for everyone. So then I just hail Gribble, and that finishes the task. Put it back on for broadcasting, have all my characters target Gribble, and I'll have all of them save back. And then once I zone out, I'll go ahead and have my Shadowknight kick everyone out of the particular heroic adventure, and then I'll get the next one. And it also gives me time to get some endurance back. So in this case, the command is KICKP space task. Allows me to kick everyone out immediately. Target Gribble, say willing, and go on to the next task, which is scouting ahead. So just need to sit for a couple minutes, well, a minute or two, while the zone creates itself, and also gives me a chance to get my endurance back from using my defensive abilities. And the defensive abilities I've been using, the main one is Impudent Influence. That is one that allows me to, I can show you. So Impudent Influence is one that's a level 102, so I'll need to get the one that's for ROS and EOK, but basically it increases my AC and absorb 20% of incoming melee damage and draining life from the attackers and giving it back to me. But it would only absorbs either 506,000 damage or it's healed me 48 times. After that it drops, and then I have to rely on either my mantle ability, which is one that absorbs 35% of incoming melee and heals me for 32,000 HP when it procs. I also have Talix's Carapace, it's just a lower level. Basically does the same thing. So now that that's gone by, I can use my IS Boxer hotkey to have everyone target Gribble and say leave. So then once I zone into the instance, I'll go ahead and there's typically 18 mobs in the very first pull. So go ahead and see it's undead. So go ahead and refresh Vsaught skin just to be very safe. Do my invis to undead. Make sure my one hand slash is what I'm using so that way I can use shield flash. Then going all the way to the end over here where the very last mob is. I'm not going to most likely be able to pull all 18 at the same time. I always try to, but it never tends to work out that way. So I'm just going to pull as many of these mobs as I can. And actually right now I'm going to death piece, because it didn't turn out well. I got to where I was being summoned, so I would have died before I ever got there. So that is one thing you have to be aware of. Sometimes it's better to just end the pool while you can and not die. So I just have to wait for these mobs to forget me, and then I'll be able to go ahead and have him moved. But in order to just save myself a little bit of time, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to have my mage call the hero, my Shadowknight. Just, it gets him off aggro, gets him right back to me, and I don't have to try to worry about the mobs aggroing him again. So just have to wait for a call of the hero. So like in this case, the enemies have forgotten me, so I could get up, but I would aggro pretty much instantly again, since I don't have a chance to get the undead invisibility up before the aggro. So I'm gonna go ahead and summon Noshi to my group. So I'm gonna go ahead and redo skin, and I'm gonna go ahead and just sit for a minute while my cleric heals up my Shadowknight real fast. Okay, so now my Shadowknight's back to full life. I'm gonna go ahead and cast the Invis to Undead again and redo the pool. Like sometimes it happens that way if they start summoning. It's just not worth it to try to fight it because you're not going to get back to your group or to your spot before they start to really do a serious amount of damage. So it's better to just abort, call it a day, and then redo it once you're able to get back to safety. So now I can shield flash, target the mobs, turn on auto attack, hit my epic 2.0, hit my horsey, hit Visage of Death, hit my Impudent Influence, and then switch to my two-hand slash. And I just have to kind of make sure that they don't get behind me. So if I have to back up some, then I have to do that just to make sure that I'm in front of them, or else it doesn't turn out well. And so then that first defensive drops, so I just have to bring on my next one. And I can always, if I get too low, hit my Dictognic Life Tap, which is an instant cast. And I just keep moving a little bit backwards every single time they summon me, just to keep them in front of me. Because if I don't, then they will not be really reposting, they'll just be doing a bunch of damage and I will die quickly. So it's easier in this case to just move backwards whenever they summon me. And so that means the task is completed, but I'm pretty sure there's at least one mob left. But I'm going to go ahead and bring my group with me now, just because there's probably just one mob that's left to kill. And so they can just come with me, and then I'll start pulling the next part once I get to it. So, or maybe I did get lucky and pull them all. Looks like I did. So that's actually great. I've never actually done that before. So I'm just going to take off the auto follow. Let's see, my skin is still good. I'm going to use my enchanter to cast a group AA. And then I'm just going to go ahead and pull all of these elders. Should be about 12 of them. So, no, 8 of them. 8 or 9. Somewhere around there. But I'm going to pull them all. Since I have Mortal Coil up, I'm more than capable of killing them all. And Right now I'm just casting instant spells. Using repel to get a little bit of time. And then casting another defensive, which is my Cursed Guardian. It lowers my melee damage, but it mitigates quite a bit of the melee damage I'm receiving. So, casting Bond on one mob, switching to another. And this one's gonna be dotted also. Switch to the next mob. I've had a decent day today for Sunday. I went to church, found out two of the. Not only were we losing the main pastor, we're also losing the assistant pastor. They got ordered to go to a church in Beloit, so they will be leaving in a couple weeks. So that's kind of sad. We hadn't even really got a chance to know them. They were only with us about 10 to 12 weeks. So that's a little bit sad. They had a bunch of cute little babies that were fun and to play with. Like Kai was adorable. Not really quite sure why I died there, but it happens unfortunately. But I only have a couple mobs left. Once these mobs move away, I'm going to use my Cleric's Divine Res, which is 100% Res AA. Also make sure that there's no Res sickness. Gives them 100% mana and endurance back. And then just have to do some quick rebuffs. And I'll be right back to pulling the rest of the mobs. I just have to pull them one at a time until I get a Mortal Coil proc, or else I won't be able to kill them. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that Divine Res now. Gives me 100%. So need to collect these artifacts. Gonna go ahead and do my self buffs, which is the Drape and Krelicore and everything. Gonna do Perfected Levitation for my Enchanter. Do Clarity, Haste, and make sure my Shadowknight also has Assurance, which is an HP AC buff. Has Shining Fortress, which is a damage mitigation buff, and Rallied Greater Ward V. And once all those are back, I just have to redo Call the Nightfall and Vizat Skin. Redo the Invis for the rest of my group just in case something like this happens. And then I'm just going to do single pulls for right now on these Elders to try to get another Mortal Coil proc. But I am going to try to move them a little bit closer to the group so I can get the auras. And since I don't have the buff right now, I could use my Epic, but I'd rather save it for the next pull in case I need it. So that's why I'm waiting for that. And no Mortal Coil yet, so I'm going to do the next pull. This one is I'm going to do 2 mobs, just I can easily do 2. So just going to save myself some time. Same thing with these, since I don't have Epic, I'm just going to dot them. Use my life taps to get life back. Switch to the next mob, dot it, and switch back so I can kill this one as soon as possible and try to get a Mortal Coil proc. And it's always nice when you get a crit heal off a life tap. I was watching a bunch of YouTube videos earlier about the police, And growing up as a kid, I always wanted to be a police officer. Don't know if that's ever going to be doable, but I would like to be a police officer one day. I am only 35, so that would be really nice. I've been wanting to be an officer, and well, ever since I was a little kid, and my mom was watching TJ Hooker, Dallas, and Chips. Also been watching Stargate Atlantis, which is one of my favorite TV shows of all time, as well as reading a bunch of fanfiction about Stargate Atlantis. Okay, there, I got a Mortal Coil proc, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull the last couple of these mobs now that I don't have to worry about life tapping up. Should only be a couple. Yeah, just 3 mobs. Pull them up to the group. And then once I'm near my group, get on my horsey so that way they can't do any kind of push on me. And just life tap one, like with my dot, go on to the next mob, attack it, hit my bond spell, and then go on to the last one in this case. I do still have 15 minutes left on my Lesson of the Devoted, so I do want to try to get this done as soon as possible. The sooner I get it done, then I can get to the 3rd mission, which in a lot of ways is the easiest one to do, but I do the 3rd one first because it's the most time consuming. But the 3rd one also, like the first one actually, Into the Hills, has the greatest chance for a name to spawn. In my case, the Bloodsucker always seems to spawn. So as soon as these artifacts go into my inventory, the task will update. I'm gonna go ahead and have my group auto follow me. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and get started on the next part, which will update in just a moment. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the auto follow. Gonna redo my skin buff. So it looks like the named did spawn in this case. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull him using Refute for Power. I'm gonna go ahead and engage him. Use my group to start getting the debuffs on. Tash, Slow, Malo from the mage, and also gives me a couple heals just from the cleric so that way I can survive a couple few minutes along with the reverse damage shield. Then I'm going to use my cleric's button to go ahead and do a heal while I wait for all the mage pets to be done. That's always a bunch of fun. Then I'm going to hit my burn hotkey. Basically hits all my groups burn AAs like Illusion of Grandeur and Chromatic Haze, and then I hit the dot and nuke button for all of my characters. That way they all twin cast and do a huge amount of damage to the named. Like, it's not even going to be close. The named will be dead in literally a second or two. So I'm going to go ahead and see what he dropped. Just the ring. I'm going to go ahead and give that to my enchanter to just use for tribute. Just, none of my characters can use that particular item. So, I'm going to redo skin. just to be safe again, because I'm be pulling multiple mobs, and you need everything you can do to try to stay alive. And I'm gonna hit group and biz. So now I'm gonna go ahead and pull all of these mobs using harm shield and refute the power to do the first pull. Then, like I said, do harm shield, which is 18 seconds of invulnerability. I'm gonna pull every single one of these death callers that I can in that time period. And then I still have a couple seconds left. So then as soon as I get here, I get close, hit my shield flash, hit my epic 2.0, hit my horsey. I could hit my visage, but I'm gonna save it for the next mission. So I'm gonna skip that for right now. I do have to admit I'm a little bit nervous about this pull since most of my defense AAs are currently down. So I'm hoping it's not going to turn into a big issue, but it is possible. Like, I am decently geared on my Shadowknight with, well, right now you can't see the true AC because I'm using the two-hand slash, but I'm gonna go ahead and hit Scarlet Blade just to give me some damage increase. And see, and there I died just because I simply ran out of defensive AAs. Which happens, unfortunately. But in the meantime, I'm gonna see if I got lucky on any of the pulls I did do. And it looks like I did. So as soon as these mobs move away, I'm gonna go ahead and res Noshi. So he's resed. I'm gonna go ahead and switch back to my one-hand slash. I'm gonna do the buffs. Because as soon as he gets the spellbook, this part of the task will be over. So then I just have to go use that at the wall real fast. And then this task will be done, and I'll still have about 8 minutes left on my lesson, which honestly I don't think I'm gonna have enough time to do the last mission, but I'm still gonna give it a try. Because I have to wait for my Shadowknight to get the endurance and everything back too. But in these heroic adventures, the mobs don't give good experience really, so that's why I'm not bothering to kill them. It's the end of the heroic adventure that gives all the experience for these. So if given the choice between killing all these extra mobs that I don't need or going and completing the task right now, I'm always going to choose completing the task just because that's the main AXP that you get from these missions. So I'm going to use my IS Boxer to have them all target Gribble, all save back, and then I'll move on to the next one, which will be Into the Hills. So I'm going to take off the toggles, that way it's just me doing everything, then kick, T space task kicks everyone out. Say willing. Do into the hills. I'm gonna go ahead and do my self buffs real fast, just while I have a chance. But I am gonna need to get endurance back before I do any huge pulls. So I have a feeling I'm gonna have to do some small pulls on the next one, like 7. I have to pull the first section, and then once that's dead and I have Mortal Coil up, I can pull the second section, and then so on with the bridge, and have to see if I get it named up. So now, just getting some endurance back from my death, and also waiting for the resurrection sickness to go away. Just that way I have the best chance to do these pulls successfully. I do hate the fact that right now I am wasting time on my Lesson of the Devoted, which only has 6 minutes left at this point, but it's better than dying for sure. So right now I should have enough endurance to get the task completed. So I'm gonna go ahead and have everyone target Gribble and say leave. Okay, so I'm gonna do my double invis real fast. Basically, cast the invis spell to undead on my cleric, cast the invis AA. But you have to be fast enough to do it, or else they will not stick over each other. So you have to cast the spell first, and then before that lands, have to cast the group invis AA. So now that that's landed, then go back to the Shadowknight. Make sure I'm in one hand slash. And I am, since I'm running out of time, gonna try to do a big pull of all these scavengers and the ghost. I'm gonna give it a shot, because I do think I do have enough endurance to get by. So then go back to the group, hit shield flash, target one of the undead mobs, hit my epic 2.0, my horse, Visage of Death, my mantle, defensive ability, and switch to my two-hand slash. So then just have to keep them in front of me as much as possible. So I have over 12 mobs in front of me right now. Okay, so just cycling between these as they die. If they die really quickly, I just have to hit auto attack again. Down to 4 mobs. Now I'm attacking the one that has the highest HP. So now that's all dead, I'm gonna go ahead and head to the next part. There may be still a couple of the scavengers left, but I can have my group auto follow me and just take care of those when I get there. Okay, yeah, so I still had 3 scavengers left, so I'm just gonna go ahead and kill these off. It's only 3 mobs, so I'm in a position to where I'm near them. And I'm gonna get on the horsey anyway, just I don't like the pull. I like the push that they do. So I'm gonna go ahead and attack the next mob. Switch to the next one, since that one's now got my bond spell, which gives me life back. And plus, I do still have Mortal Coil up. So with Mortal Coil, I don't typically die all that often. I mean, it does still happen, as I've shown you a couple times. Like I said, I'm not perfect at this. I still do die occasionally, but 95% of the time, I'll go through all 3 of these without a single death. It just so happens that sometimes, yeah, you're gonna die. Like either you're out of defensive AA abilities, defensive combat skills, out of pretty much everything. So at that point, you just have to do your best, and if you die, just skip right back to it. So now I'm gonna pull all these undeads. Again, I'm not gonna be able to get all of them just because they're too far spaced apart for me to get every single one. Then I'm gonna hurry up, get on my horsey, and then make sure I'm attacking so I can get healed. Once that first dot is on, I just switch to the next mob. In this case, I'm not even really using my defensive. It's a lot of mobs, but with me being low on endurance, I don't want to risk it. I want to save that for in case I need it. I will use Repel and Wounding Blade though, and actually looks like I should use the defensive anyway, just to be safe. So much for that idea. And then I'm just going to go ahead and switch to the next mob. And just keep alternating, make sure I have attack on. Because sometimes I have done that where I forget to turn that on. It's really aggravating to die for that reason. So I have 5 more mobs. Switch to the next one. Okay, so then just 1 more over here. So I did not get a named on this one, but I only have 45 seconds or so left on my lesson. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get the full XP for this one that I would if I hadn't died twice. But it happens that way. And so, just going to kill this one. Get off my little horsey. And get on my skin buff. Redo a couple of the buffs for Noshi, like Shining Fortress and Rallight Greater Ward of A. Have them auto-follow me. And then head to the end of the bridge, where I'll do my last pull. And I'll either do Perfected Inves or IVU, depending on what kind of mobs are. So these are Malarian Pest, so I'm going to go ahead and group Invis. And in case you're wondering about some of the stuff that my guild is saying, right now my guild is raiding, but I haven't finished all of the tasks required to raid with them, so I do have the required level on my main, which is the Enchanter, but I don't have all the tasks done because I want to get them all done with all my characters all at the same time. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull all of these pests and swarm them down. Then I just have to do a couple of hails and I'll be all done. I'm going to go ahead and use Harm Shield to just pull everything. as you can see, they're all right there. I have about 4 more seconds left, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Shield Flash right now. Hit my Epic 2.0, Horsey, and switch to my two-hand slash. And like I said, it is important to make sure that you have attack on. So right now, about 9 mobs, no big deal really. So then just have to keep alternating. Make sure I'm close enough to repost all of them. Use repel as needed. Keep hitting him with my bond spell to keep getting constant heals. So I have 5 more mobs left. And this large mosquito was actually the named placeholder, so I didn't have to pull it, I just figured I would to get rid of it. So now all the mobs are dead. I'm gonna heal this NPC. I'm gonna have my group auto follow me and head back to the beginning of the instance. And once there, I'm done. I'll go ahead and do the hail, leave the instance, rest up for just a minute or two to get the endurance back, and then I'm going to put down a campfire and start working on the Darkened Sea progression. So I'll be streaming that as well, so you can watch me do the Darkened Sea. So all my characters are here. I'm going to do my hail. Use IS Boxer to have all my characters target Gribble. Save back. One thing I'm gonna do is I am gonna stop the stream here for just a few minutes, and then I'll restart it once I start doing TDS. That way I can upload this video to YouTube also as a swarming guide. Well, see you in a few minutes.